Good morning. Welcome to Business Income. It's Easy, Part 5, Leasehold Interest. My name is Lori Infantino, President of the Insurance Community University. Now we're moving into a very tricky topic, and it's tricky because a lot of us have never heard of this line of insurance, and because of that we never offered it. We never asked the questions. But if we look at just the words, leasehold interest, also known as tenant's lease interest, and just read the words, what we're referring to is a tenant that has a very valuable lease. And based on the term and conditions and whatnot, this is really a very important component of their operation. When you think of it, there's two major expenses most businesses have. They've got their payroll, and then they've got their rent. That could be in the form of a lease, or it could be a mortgage payment, but these are two major operating expenses. I'm sure you've seen businesses that you frequent and all of a sudden they're out of business, and you say, what happened there? And then you find out by asking that the owner of the property had raised the rents one more time, and the insured just could not afford that additional operating expense. Now, we can't help that situation. If somebody just loses a lease or chooses not to renew it because the price has gone up, they haven't met the components of how we cover business income, which is they must have a direct damage by a causal loss. So it is a very valuable asset, and again, one we may not have talked about. So not only are we insuring the valuable lease, but there is another component here, and I ran across this once in my 40-some-odd years of insurance. And this was an insured who went into a large building in Beverly Hills, and they got a sublease from the occupant. And there was 5 years left on that lease with a 5-year extension period available. And this new tenant came in and paid that current tenant $9 million for that lease. Now, if there was a loss to that building, then the new tenant would lose the value of that $9 million bonus payment. And we can, in fact, insure bonus payments under leasehold interest, but you've got to, of course, ask that question. Again, I said we can't insure a lease just because it terminates, okay? So that's not what we're doing. But in the event that they have a loss, what will happen next is that the lease provision is about to kick in. And this is what we call the fire abatement clause, the escape clause, and in most leases it will say that if in a certain period of time, let's say 120 days, the premises cannot be occupied, then the lease shall thereupon terminate. Now, the owner of the building will be thrilled about this because now they're going to get market value on that lease, but the insured is the one we're concerned about, that being the tenant who has now lost the future value of that lease. So tenant's lease interest is the difference between the actual rent they're paying for the period of their lease, including the extension periods, and what they would have to pay under another lease term. So I've written down an example here for you. Let's say your business had 5 years left on their lease, and they are paying $5,000 a month. That would be paying $60,000 annually, and the full term left is 5 years. So over 5 years, they will be paying $300,000 in rent. Remember, that was a bargain lease, right? That's why we're insuring it. The best they can do is $10,000 a month for 5 years. So the tenant's lease interest will pay the difference between what they were paying for 5 years, $300,000, and what they would now have to pay, which is $600,000. So it is that $300,000 differential which is the subject of this insurance. Just a note here that that $300,000 payment will be discounted by an interest rate that will be in effect within the policy term. So this coverage is sometimes automatically included in a policy. I just was reviewing a policy and it was provided automatically. Otherwise, it's going to be a separate endorsement known as leasehold interest. So this is not really a form that's written often. I think it's because we haven't asked the questions, as I said earlier, and we just weren't aware that it is available. So hopefully I've made this easy for you. And you can join me in the next session when we're actually going to read the most important paragraph in the business income form, and that's the insuring agreement. See you then.
That was easy.